All right, Sean Payton surprised us last year. How big will the step be this year for Denver? Can he surprise us again and get there a little bit quicker? We'll talk about that and more today here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is a fact. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, and of course, it is Thursday. That means Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette is here to join us today. And I'm going to tell you everything that we're going to talk about in just a second. But first, I got to let you know that today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Game Time. That's right, man. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. We are free to subscribe to wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you tap in, whether you watch or listen, we will be there. All right, here's what we're going to do. Third and final segment today, we'll be landing this plane at a spot where we're going to talk about the Bears and the Dolphins and how they're headed in different directions. One team is looking up and trying to just add a little bit to a team that has a lot of potential, and the other team is taking a team that used to have a lot of potential, and they're looking to try to rebuild it, and that's exactly what they're doing. First and last place, the approach to the draft. What do we mean by that? Well, the team that finished last, the Tennessee Titans, and the team that finished first, the Philadelphia Eagles. It just shows you, man, how the difference between being rich and having poverty, and I know about it as a Jaguar guy. I know about poverty. Chris covers Pittsburgh. He's considered rich. All right. The things that the teams think about before the draft, a week before the draft, the things that not even the teams, but the fans and the people who cover the teams, the things that their attitude is totally, totally different. You can't ever take that for granted. We'll start at the top, though, talking about Sean Payton, the Super Bowl winning coach in New Orleans, is now in a division of the AFC West. Chris, he shocked me last year. Probably shocked me the second most. Buffalo probably gave me the biggest surprise because of how good they were. But both of those teams, they really know who they are. They're in the real good player development. And even if you don't know the players, they got a whole bunch of good ones on their team, and Payton is trying to take another step this year.
Yeah, I got to say, Sean Payton deserves a lot of credit. I looked at the Broncos like you did last year. I thought they were going to be a rough team. This was going to be another rebuilding year. I wasn't big on Bo Nix. And, man, they continued to prove me wrong. They made it to 10-7. Solid job on their part. Third place in a highly competitive AFC West, and will still be a highly competitive AFC West. But, I'm interested to see what they do this year. How does Bo Nix look now that people have a more of a beat on how he likes to play? They still got Cortland Sutton. Their offensive line's taking a step in the right direction. Will they spend big at running back in the first round of this NFL draft so that Jaleel McLaughlin isn't their top back this year? But that defense, with Pat Surtain, Nick Benito, they've got talent, man. And I think they put themselves in a really good spot. They've added Talanoa Hufanga. This could be a really good team. I don't think that they are a Super Bowl threat just yet, but I do think that Sean Payton deserves for resetting a good floor for the Broncos to operate from. They at least they know they're not bottom feeders as people were worried about them being in their current status.
Yeah, I love what he's done, and I didn't like what he was doing, and now there's another layer to it, and that layer is continue to evaluate the guys that you have on the team. They already moved on from Javonte Williams, right? Everybody's mocking a running back to them, and it might happen. Them and the Bears could change their fortunes at the running back spot. We'll talk about Chicago a little bit later. But listen to the guys from Locked On Broncos. They're going to really, really discuss the fact, and it's going to be very, very quick, but this is the focus now. The focus is on they've had a lot of young guys showing what they can do. They need other young guys to show them, because right now, with where they're sitting, it's all about putting up or showing up. And check out the guys from Locked On Broncos talking about the way Denver is building their squad.
And look, I think it's one of those signs that you need to see something now, right? Like you've had a couple of years, you've seen some ups and downs in the development process with some of these players, but now the Broncos are in a moment, they're in a window where it's like, we need to see something now, or else we're going to move forward in a sense. And that's always just the business mentality of the NFL. I understand it, but you can't just hold up roster spots, for guys that you hope will eventually get it to.
Okay, so last year they moved on from Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy proceeded to go to Cleveland and have the best year of his career. When a team decides to move on, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't have success. It just means that on their calendar, it's time for them to move forward and move in another direction. Now, they've done all right, and wide receiver ain't necessarily the weakness out there with the Broncos. And like I said, they moved on from Javonte Williams. It's going to be interesting now to see which one of those guys, like they didn't keep Benito, right? Like which one of these? No, they actually did keep Benito, but it was Baron Browning that they let go last year. It's like, no, they're going to make decisions on young guys right now because they are at that level where they're either going to make that next step or they're going to stay stagnant. And I don't think stagnant and Sean Payton belong in the same sentence.
Is why he got out of New Orleans. You look at the mess that the Saints are in right now. Granted, he kind of was a big part of making that mess and the way that they operated to try to keep the team together that he assembled. But that's why he got out. He's like, I don't want to be stuck in this. I want to get out and I want to go win, and I want to get in a situation that's going to help me win. And so now he's in Denver where he has his quarterback. He has a young developing core. And again, they're still, I think, 2 pieces away from, becoming one of those guys. But if they hit those 2 pieces with, some of the talent they've acquired, with the development of some of their younger guys, or in the draft class this year, they could be a really dangerous team. I don't think the AFC West is as open and shut as it's been in many years with the Chiefs. I think that the Chiefs, they're not a team I'm saying it's fallen off, but I do think that they're a team that you got to look at them and wonder, when is going to be the time that this team stops winning the division? You look at the Chargers, the way that they're playing. Jim Harbaugh, he's doing a really good job. How can the Broncos get in that mix? They got to keep building the right way. But I think Sean Payton, what he's at least done is he's done. At least this year, we got to see if he keeps it up. He's done this year what Mike Tomlin kind of does for the Steelers, and that, you thought that this team was, a bottom 10 team in the NFL. Nah, they're going to at least be a team that is either gets into the playoffs or is just outside the playoffs, even when it's technically still in a rebuild mode because they don't have all the pieces in place right now.
Chris, can I go out on a limb? Last year, I said the best division in football, this is preseason now, was the AFC North, and that's because of Baltimore and Pittsburgh and who they are, because of the Bengals and their firepower and what they can have. I said that even with the garbage can that is the Cleveland Browns, right? But now that you have a team that has Sean Payton in the playoffs last year, Jim Harbaugh in the playoffs last year, Andy Reid, you know what it is, Kansas City, one of the GOATs of this industry, and now Pete Carroll. If that's not the best coach division from an innovative standpoint, because a lot of those guys are really, really old school, they are the best coach division from like week to week playing those teams. They are going to be super, super, super prepared, and it's not going to be an easy game for anybody.
I agree. I think they're going to be tough. They're going to be able to be I think a decently coached team. I think that they have young talent, and that's the stuff that helps get you there. But again, you got to keep making moves. You can't be, like you said, stagnancy is not what you want to be. You want to be able to make moves to kind of keep developing different parts of your roster. And hey, here's the other thing: if Bo Nix takes a step up this year versus a step back as teams adjust to him, that could be the other factor that makes them that much better, right? Because Bo Nix, I think, really wowed a lot of us with his rookie season. Now it's going to be, okay, how do you counter that? How do you build on that? That's where Sean Payton has to keep growing.
For sure. Now, Sean Payton is not in a situation of either one of the next 2 teams we'll discuss in segment 2. First and last, the team that's picking first so far, the team that's picking last in the draft. Right now, we'll discuss their fortunes and what they're looking forward to in the different way they're preparing, even in the media, for what we'll see next week. We'll do that more here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of the NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Priority last-minute deals, man, is so important because you can get 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. I mean, sometimes you don't know when you're going to get paid if your check's going to hit the bank. So you got to do it at the last minute. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'll spell it for you. LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, with my man Chris Carter, because it is Thursday here on Locked On NFL. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of Locked On NFL. Running it down, first and last. What does first and last mean? Why are we going to talk about first and last? Because a week away from the draft, the last place team is the Tennessee Titans. They represent all of the teams that are usually in football purgatory right now, that like the one that I cover in Jacksonville, that just aren't used to winning. So when you're not used to winning, you approach the draft with in a way, you're picking early for one, and then you're just not used to winning, right? And then there are other teams that are represented by, I believe, the teams that win a lot. Even with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl for the first time in 7 years. See, I've made that sound like it's an easy thing to do, right? And there's a lot of teams that have never won a Super Bowl, like the one I cover and the Tennessee Titans. You just approach things differently. Pittsburgh, they're used to winning. No losing seasons under Mike Tomlin. They just approach things a little bit differently. I want you to hear what Tyler Roland is talking about, the other host of Locked On NFL. They're trying to find a wide receiver, man, to go along with the quarterback that everybody anticipates them picking. He says they're going to have to be aggressive, maybe even trade back into the first round. Listen to Tyler.
Let's look at the Tennessee Titans receiver group. You got Calvin Ridley at the top, but after that, Treylon Burks, the ghost of Treylon Burks, as I like to say, Van Jefferson, James Prochet, Bryce Oliver, Jaquan Jackson. That might be the worst wide receiver group in the NFL. Like, that is despicably bad. Bad. So it may be, and we've seen the Titans add Draymond Jones. We've seen the Titans add Lorenzo Carter. They already have a veteran in Arden Key. Jalen Harrell is a 7th rounder out of Michigan last year, stepped up. Ali Gay did nice things. Like, the Tennessee Titans realistically do have at least 5 edge rushers that they feel comfortable giving snaps to. You would like that to get better, but the point is, don't be shocked if the Tennessee Titans make some kind of aggressive maneuver to get a wide receiver, whether that be trading up back into the first round to get one of the top tier guys that we talked about on Thursday's episode, whether that be trading back and taking 2 wide receivers back to back. Like, that would be an aggressive mover, or 2 out of the top 4 picks wide receivers. Don't be surprised if the Titans do something that aggressive.
Listen, this time last year, the Titans had what people said was the worst offensive tackle group in the world. They took J.C. Latham, played him at left, now they moved him to right. This year they're picking first. They're going to take a quarterback first overall that some people say last year would have been the 7th quarterback in that draft. And the kid left Washington State and had a 4th round grade on him, and he went to Miami, and all he did was just, he learned a whole bunch of Miami. He just put it on display what he could do, and now he's going number 1 overall. It just seems like to me, even when you gave the left tackle and they signed another left tackle in free agency, and going to move J.C. Latham to the right, and you give him a quarterback, you see how desperate Tyler sounds for wide receivers? Chris, bad teams always seem like no matter how much you give them, they always need something else.
No, I agree. And that's the thing. It's like that when you're in that tough spot, you start saying, hey, we got this. We got to get something else. We got to get this. And this is what you don't want to fall into. This is why, like, it's really tough to tank. Like, and I'm not saying tough as in it's difficult. Tough as in, like, it's costly, because when you tank and you legit have so many different problems, even if you find your quarterback, like, everyone thinks that, oh, the Bengals just getting Joe Burrow, that's just how tanking works, and that's how you just fix franchises. You just tank, get the first overall pick, and everything's going to be fine. They also needed to tank to get Jamar Chase. They also needed to tank to get several other players. And here's the thing, even with that, they've only made the playoffs twice in the 5 years that Joe Burrow's been in the league. Right. So, like, it's not some fix-all. And so when you're picking this early, yeah, you have to do everything you can to assemble to get back out there. And now sometimes you can hit the jackpot. You look at the Commanders. They have swung that around. Now they got to do it consistently. They can't have this be an RG3 type of situation where he came into the league. Everyone thought he's unstoppable, and then he phased out really quickly. I don't think Jane Daniels will. I think he's that good. But I do. But again, like, it's more often that you're the team that keeps missing and stays in the bottom than you are the team that fixes it and then rises to the top. And that's just a tough place to be in. And so I get Tyler saying, hey, you got to be aggressive there. If you do think that Cam Ward is your quarterback of the future, get him a weapon. You got to get him a weapon at least in that receiver room that you're talking about there. And look, I think there could be some really good receivers in the late part of the first round. I even think if they stay put in the second round, there could be some good wide receivers. But I do think that should be a priority for them.
Yeah, it should be a priority. I look at it, sometimes I look at it like this. You can't really look at teams like the ones that are perpetual winners and say why. It's easy to go, well, all you got to do is do what they do. But they're not looking into, that's not their perspective. It's like on Trading Places. They're the two dudes when they went broke looking in the window, and those dudes sitting there eating tomahawks. And it's like, they're going to get full and leave steak all on the table and half bottles of wine and walk out. But the hungry person is like, are you kidding me? That's what happens when you look at this from poverty versus affluence when it comes to the NFL. I think you have to look at the teams that used to be terrible, and then they turned it around, like historically, like the Bucks, like the Patriots. How do they do it? It's with structure, and it's with coaching, and it's with leadership. And that's, to me, I think Borgonzi helps when he comes from KC. I'm not too the coach, man, Coach Callahan. I don't know. And I know his dad was a great coach, long-time coach. He inherited some bad stuff. This is going to be a year to tell whether he can right that ship and whether he's the right guy, regardless of who the quarterback is. Now, I'm going to show you the people that I talk about that you're looking in the window and they leaving
high on the hog.
They leaving prime rib on it. They got Camus, they drinking, they leaving it all like we can give that to the peasants. The Philadelphia Eagles, they win, they do real well. My man Lou Dibiaz, I love him to death, but he ain't have nothing to do. He said we're gonna do a redraft from the year we picked Jordan Davis. Who would we take? Do you know how fat your belly gotta be for you to be sitting there breaking down the team that actually won the Super Bowl for you, trying to trade players off for somebody else? Now check out my man Lou. We're gonna do this with a lot of fun.
So my draft do-over from the last, I'd say, 4 to 5 years, 4 to 5 draft classes. And there's not many because Howie's nailing these classes. But for me, it would be trading up for Kyle Hamilton instead of Jordan Davis. Imagine Kyle Hamilton coming out of Notre Dame, or just the player he is right now with the Baltimore Ravens. Imagine that version of Kyle Hamilton in this Eagles defense. Like that kind of size, wingspan, versatility at the safety position after trading away Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And with no Kobe Dean out, Kyle Hamilton can be a player that you have in the box, is a good cover 2 deep safety. When Baltimore moved him back last year, that's when the defense got better. Imagine having that kind of range and size at safety.
Oh, man, the rich just get richer, even if it's in their own minds. But he does make a point, because in Vic Fangio's defense, Jordan Davis doesn't start. Jalen Carter starts at nose tackle. So I think this is very smart by Lou to say this, and I cannot imagine Kyle Hamilton in the Philadelphia Eagles. That would be a cheat code.
That would be insane. But I also think it's important to remember sometimes things happen for a reason. Sometimes you don't need something to happen because, there's always different things. You could do what ifs all around the road. Like, my boy Dave Damashek, he used to do the what if NL or what if FL. And like, it was always interesting to see, like, if one thing happened, what was the domino effect that had everything else happen? Like for example, my favorite always, what if the Steelers chose Lamar Jackson? Because even if he don't start for the Steelers right away, he keeps him from John Harbaugh. Harbaugh gets fired in 2018. The Ravens franchise probably falls into disarray. And then now they're probably sitting there with an MVP quarterback instead of, the situation the Steelers are in. And what kind of impact does that have on the NFL? So like stuff like that. But like Jordan Davis, you take him off of the he's officially listed as a starter. He's started 17 games in back-to-back seasons for the Eagles. A big part of what I think makes the Eagles defense really good is that front is just terrifying. It just eats you alive every second, every rotation. And so I get what Lou's saying. Kyle Hamilton, him in that defense would be insane. But I think a big part of what the Eagles have done so well is they have continued to invest in the trenches so that they can dominate the trenches. And if they broke from that strategy, it would not be the franchise that they are right now, where they can consistently just beat you up in those areas, and then they can win with their skill positions otherwise. Again, I'm not saying that Louis wrong for saying that. I'm one where I'm that person where if the president is all right, I do not need to go back to the past and fix it. And it's not just all right. There are Super Bowl champs with a young core that can be together and win more Super Bowls. I don't think you need to. I hear what he's saying. It could maybe be even better with that situation, but I think that the way the Eagles are handling it, I wouldn't be questioning Howie Roseman and how they're making moves in the draft.
Absolutely not. And the point that we'll carry further away from it is this. We think about this when teams are drafting next week, especially the teams that are good at it. Somebody asked me, they said, well, man, Dennis Rodman was great. All he had to do was stop the crazy stuff. Do you know if he stopped some of the crazy stuff, he might not have been great? Yeah. I'm just saying, what makes Philly who they are is their discipline to their philosophy and how they feel. And I think if you go in a vacuum, what if they don't take Jordan Davis, but they take Kyle Hamilton? Well, then they don't feel the way that they feel about their trenches enough to then go out and say, we're going to take two corners, one late in the first round and one at the top of the second round. Mm-hmm. They might not do that. The reason why they're able to do that, and the reason why they're able to do some of the other things offensively, like go and get a running back and pay him when nobody else does, is because they've drafted so well also in the offensive line with their trenches. Exactly. This is all about who Jordan Davis isn't just Jordan Davis by himself. Jordan Davis represents a revolution, a movement. We're going to be the biggest, strongest, fastest, meanest, nastiest people, and we'll supplement our team around that. And I think if you take that one person away, you're actually chipping away from the DNA of who they are. And they might not be, to your point, Chris, without Jordan Davis, they might go in a whole nother direction and think in a whole nother different way. Just imagine if they didn't have Jordan Davis. They'd have had to pay to keep Milton Williams this year. See?
Exactly. Yeah.
See, that's the snowball effect, and that's what happens.
It's what good teams do. That's the bottom line here, Wig.
Yep, it's what good teams do. All right, good teams, not so good teams, the Bears and the Dolphins. They're teams that are kind of right in the middle of where people feel about them. They're going in different directions. I'll talk to you all about that in just a second here in the third segment of Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions, and we are all in, baby. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, even when you go home, which means it's time to hire. When it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do, and that's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job at LinkedIn's with their new feature, and it could help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip: add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. So post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Running it down here on a Thursday on Locked On NFL with my man Chris Carter. We are talking about teams a week before the draft, their outlook and what they're doing. Chris, I'm going to tell you right now, I have no earthly idea what the Miami Dolphins got going on. If you're going to trade Jalen Ramsey, if you're going to move on from Tyreek Hill, which the rumors are out there now that that's what they want to do both. Why'd you wait this late? You wait till free agency settled. You waited till all of this stuff. You had to pay a bonus out already. You already gave Jalen $4 million. It seems like to me Chris Greer doesn't have a clue. Listen to Cal Krabs talk about some of the moves, including the one about Jalen Ramsey.
But I do think if you remove the emotional attachment and the emotional investment that you have in the Dolphins' success from the equation, I do think moving on from Jalen Ramsey with what the offseason focus is the right move to make. So with that in mind, I hope they don't wake up on game day, week 1, and Jalen Ramsey is on the roster and they have to quote unquote deal with it. You shouldn't. You get what you can. Now the challenge is you need to maximize the potential, and you might have to get creative there to get what you feel is tangible value. I don't think this is send Jalen Ramsey out and get 2 draft picks back of meaningful significance. I don't think he's at that stage.
All right, listen, man. Miami quarterback puts up a lot of numbers whenever he's healthy. They're very, very proficient. But everybody and their brother's afraid that he's one hit away from being hurt.
Yeah,
you can hear the local media. There's local media down there saying they need to draft a quarterback. Yeah, but you're paying this dude $200 million. It's wild. Then you got a whole bunch of running backs that are fast, but ain't none of them big. And then you got a whole bunch of wide receivers that are fast, and ain't none of them big. And then you got offensive linemen that might well be fast because they can't block nobody. And Eric Armstead just retired. It's weird what they got going on. They keep keeping Bradley Chubb over and over again, but yet they want to let Jalen go. They let Van Ginkel go. What is going on with Miami, in your opinion?
They're struggling. They thought that they were on the precipice, and now they're on the precipice of falling apart. I think that's the situation that they're in right now. When you look at the picks that haven't worked out, and part of it is also the picks that they didn't have. Right, in 2022 and 2023, they didn't have first round picks. Heck, in 2022, they didn't have a second round pick. So that's when you don't have those picks. When you have that, and then again, part of that, they had 2 first round picks in 2021. So but you need those picks to hit. You need Jalen Waddle and Jalen Phillips to be studs when you go make aggressive plays like that. Javon Holland and Liam Eichenberg, in 2021 alone, they had 2 firsts and 2 seconds and a third. So they needed that class to be like the 74 Steelers, where 4 Hall of Famers come out of it.
Is that Christian Fulton? Is that the Fulton class? Because
that's the Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Liam Eichenberg class.
Gotcha. Good class too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, and in 2020, they also invested highly. They got Tua Tagovailoa first at 5th overall. Austin Jackson's at 18. Noah I'm gonna mess that name up. Igbugene. But 3 first round picks, 2 second round picks, and Hunt and Davis. Where are these guys? Are these guys changing the game for them right now? That's the problem. They've invested improperly in the draft classes. And then they had 2 draft classes where they couldn't, take a huge swings at, and now they're back to having more balanced, picks again. But they're supposed to be further along than this, Wig, and this is what happens when you take really big swings at trying to get all the guys in specific drafts, and you miss. You pay for that for years.
You absolutely pay for it. And then when you do have unfortunate injuries, you can't cry because everybody around the league has injuries. And I mentioned Christian Fulton. They let him go after 1 contract. He's a pretty good player right now as a 3 technique for the Raiders.
And speaking on the Raiders, who's one of the better draft picks they've had over the past several years? Christian Wilkins. Guess where he's at right now?
Oh, Christian Wilkins. That's what I meant, not Christian Fulton. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, who's Fulton? I was like, I didn't know who that was.
That's the DB out of LSU. My bad. But no, Christian Wilkins. I'm just thinking, he's a 25-year-old 3 technique who gets $90 million, and you just let him walk out of the door. It's just the door.
Look, listen to their first round picks since 2018. Micah Fitzpatrick, star for the Steelers. Christian Wilkins, star for the Raiders. Tua Tagovailoa, Austin Jackson, Noah Noah. I'm gonna just call him Noah because I can't get that name.
Noah I, right?
Noah I. But like Tua is the main contributor out of those. Now Jalen Waddle, good player, but Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Jalen Phillips, has he done it? And so now your next first round pick is Chop Robinson, who did have a solid rookie season with 6 sacks. But you need more than solid now. You need first rounders to start hitting home runs because this is not working out. And when you've missed for so long, it's gonna come back to bite you. And again, it'll be interesting to see, are they going to be able to stay above falling into the absolute depths of the NFL with their current status?
And they got a pretty boy team. And what I mean by that is not necessarily the way they look physically, but I mean everybody makes these big beautiful plays. Both receivers, Achane, everybody makes all of these nice plays. It's like they got a team full of people on South Beach, but they need to turn around and go over and look in Opelika and go to the Poking Beans and get some real Miami people and put them on that team, because they ain't got nothing in the trenches, as my man Matt Williamson says. Too many Ferraris, not enough dump trucks. The Bears look like they're trying to make the right moves. Some people think they're just a running back away. I still think they need a little bit more, but here's Lauren Cox telling you how he's tired of this mock draft process with everybody giving them the same people.
I'm getting a little tired of mock drafts, giving the Chicago Bears a running back at the 10th overall pick, not named Ashton Genty, because if the Bears are even going to consider a running back in that spot, it's the kid from Boise State or no one else. But there can't be another running back even in that conversation. That we've seen mock drafts with Omarion Hampton from North Carolina as an option for the Bears as early as the 10th overall pick. Even seen one with Travion Henderson from Ohio State as an option with the 10th overall pick. And there's just not a reality here where any running back is the best player available with the 10th pick unless they're named Ashton Genty.
Man, this process. While I agree with my man Lauren from Locked On Bears, I will tell you this, and I said this last night on the Squad Show. There's a NFL, longtime NFL offensive lineman, I think he was a first or second round pick, who randomly around November was watching tape, and he's been a scout before. He said, I know people love Genty, and I do too, but if a team wants a running back and Genty's gone and they end up with Omarion Hampton, they will not be upset. Is this a little bit of paralysis by analysis with the process, or is it just not realizing that if your team is good and you fixed your offensive line, if you get Omarion Hampton and he runs for 1,300 yards, ain't nobody going to remember he was picked 10th overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it too is that there's always the buyer beware about drafting a running back too high, especially when you're not when you're a rebuilding team. Granted, that they if the Bears believe in Caleb, they're going to be they're going to believe that, hey, they got that right. They're going to believe Roma Dunze, they got it right, so they think they have the pieces in place. Darnell Wright at offensive tackle, so you've gotten a lot of those things to go in your favor, right? So I mean, like, it's. If you think that Hampton's that much of a star running back, I hear you out, Wig. I hear where Lauren's saying that, like, hey, like, running back at top 10. Because here's the other thing: at top 10, you could do a lot of different things. If you're the Bears, you could, Ted McMillan might be there. You might just say, you know what, let's just keep adding star power to the passing game, so because we believe in Caleb, we think he's going to be the star quarterback that makes us the future Caleb Williams. That's why they picked him first overall last year. That's why they were so high on him. But I look at the things that they've been building around, and I do wonder, how close are they to being that team? And Ben Johnson, this is Ben Johnson's team now. Like, this is going to be his offense. How can he make that work? If it's Ashton Genty at 10th overall, absolutely, I think that would be a heck of a pick by them. Will he be gone by them? I think he could be. I think that he could be picked inside the top 10. And then if you're asking yourself, well, who would you take in that situation if you're the Bears? Would you consider Tyler Warren? Would you consider Colton Loveland? Would you consider someone on defense to add there? A lot of different directions you can go. But I get this point of the draft season is when we have discussed all these prospects in one way or another for a month now, maybe even more if you're a person that focuses on the draft all year round. And so now it's kind of everyone just seeing the nerves work themselves up so that they're standing there thinking like, oh man, what if this happened? What if that happened? It's part of the nature of the game. But I definitely get Lauren's frustration with certain narratives. It's what I tell people. I'm like, I don't think the Steelers are drafting a quarterback in the first round unless Cam Ward falls to them, which ain't happening, which is why I do not have the Steelers picking a quarterback in the first round in any of my mock drafts. I'm just not doing it.
I got you, man. Maybe Bear fans will feel a little bit better about that pick if they knew the guy I comped Omarion Hampton to. That would be Matt Forte. So I'm just saying that's my comp for them. Matt Forte is my comp for Omarion Hampton. But whoever you want your team to draft, it's good to find out about them, especially day 2 and day 3 players. And you can do that at Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parsons and Coach Keith Sanchez. Man, that podcast is so good. You learn so much about players from two guys that are amongst the best in the business at talking about prospects. Make sure you check that out wherever you get your podcast, and tap back in also to Locked On NFL in the morning with Tyler Roland, and I'll be here in the barbershop in the afternoon tomorrow on Friday with Matt Williamson. That'll be, man, look, we're a week away, 1 week away. Chris, don't hold back, man. Go get them up there in Pittsburgh, man, and we'll see you next Thursday here. And thank y'all for joining us and spending a little bit of time with us here today on Locked On NFL.